Will the Four Nations tournament cause a frenzy in the hockey card market? Let's discuss that and more on today's edition of the Hockey Card Haven podcast. Let's dive in. Hello and welcome. This is episode 31 of the Hockey Card Haven podcast, powered by Slab Sharks, with myself, Mike Distefano, and Anthony Santini. We are a weekly Wednesday show diving deep into the world of hockey card collecting, flipping, and investing. You can find us on YouTube and also up on Spotify for you on-the-go listeners, and soon to be up on Apple as well. We'll notify you with when that happens, but shouldn't be too much longer. What's going on, Ant? How you feeling on a Wednesday, pal?
Not too bad, buddy. Chill Wednesday today. I actually headed to the mall and pretty much just hanging around waiting for this Leafs game to start. Ended up watching a little bit of hockey last night, playing a little bit of the new Call of Duty. So it's been pretty chill. I'm off now for Christmas break. So pretty much just doing a little bit of homework, getting that finished up. And then just looking forward to the Spangler Cup. I'll be working later on this month. So
does that mean you're getting more involved in the cards over the next little bit? You got more time?
I think more just like organizing. I think more just looking at like what I have, maybe liquidating some stuff over the Christmas break. And it's going to give me more time to just organize everything I have that I look at through the boxes and stuff, because I feel like I'm pretty well organized, but there's always time to take to look at cards, right? So
it's interesting because I'm the opposite. I think I'm taking the next couple of weeks, I think, is a good buying period. A lot of people looking for extra cash for some Christmas gifts, might be looking to offload some cards. That's been my actual approach over the last couple of weeks. I put a couple of notes out there on Instagram and said, hey, if anyone's looking for some extra cash, I'm looking to buy. Same goes to all of our listeners. Hit me up, AB Cards on Instagram also. But you know, that's what I think right now is going to be people looking to make some money. I guess people like you, perhaps, just went and spent a bunch of money on Black Friday, got some Christmas gifts to shop for, got to replenish the funds. So I actually think if you can afford it, obviously, might be a good time to be a buyer right now as opposed to a seller.
yeah, no, I think with the Christmas holiday just around the corner, I've noticed an increase of people just posting with the buying post, kind of like you mentioned, floating out the idea that, look, if you are looking to liquidate cards in order to get some cash, some disposable cash to spend for Black Friday that just passed, obviously, but more importantly, Christmas coming up, what people want money to spend for presents and whatnot. I think when you go to shows, you're going to be able to find this weekend, especially, and for the next 2 weekends, people walking around saying, yeah, you know what? I got this little box here. This is kind of what I got for now that I'm looking to move. I'm just looking to offload the whole box. Maybe could it be at 60, 70%, maybe even better? Who knows? I don't think there's going to be a lot of people looking to trade out of cards or into cards as of right now. But if you are going to shows and you are looking to buy and you're in a spot right now where you can buy cards and also Christmas presents, I think it's a great spot to, great opportunity to go to shows and take a look to see what people are selling.
Absolutely. Let's get into what we want to discuss today. There's a few things, but I think what's mainly taken over the conversation in the hockey world right now is the announcement of the Four Nations Cup tournament rosters. All four countries essentially have been leaked and announced. We know who's all making it on all four teams. So why don't we actually go through the four countries and talk about all the players that will be making the Four Nations Cup tournament, which is going to be ongoing in February in place of the NHL All-Star Game. It's the first time, Anthony, that we'll have best on best hockey since 2016. I think it was 2016, the World Cup of Hockey up in Toronto. So it's been a long time. Now, I know it's not technically best on best because, you're missing out on a lot of the superstars that aren't either Finnish, Swedish, American, or Canadian. Like, Ovechkin, for example, won't be there. Leon Draisaitl, Nikita Kucherov. There's a lot of players out there that are not going to be competing, obviously, because it's only four countries. And if you're not a member of one of those four, well, sucks to be you, I guess, unfortunately. But it's still going to be an exciting tournament. And, we've been kind of speculating for the last few weeks. I know your group chats have been kind of buzzing, I'm sure, the last couple of days, who might make, who might miss, what are the snubs. So why don't we go through it? We can have that conversation here on the pod, and then we can talk about what we think it might if it may have impact on the hockey card market, if there's going to be a positive or negative impact based on what just happened over the last 24 hours. So I'm going to show. Let's bring it up right here. Let's see. Bring this tab up. Bam. There we go. So we're going to take a look at each team. So we'll start with Finland. Sebastian Aho and Barkov, probably the two guys that are going to be the headliners there. Patrick Laine making it for Team Finland, I thought was very interesting. He returned last night. See the goal? Nice little snipe. Yeah. Little bar down snipe for Patty Laine and his return. I bet his market's about to shoot back up from where it was with him returning to Montreal. Mikko Rantanen, obviously a big player for that team as well. So good forward group. Defensively, they've got pretty much Miro Heiskanen and Esa Lindell, those two Dallas Stars defensemen, Juuso Valimaki, Jani Hakanpää of the Toronto Maple Leafs. Not sure why or how he made the team, but guess not a lot of Finnish defensemen out there. And then goaltending, you've got Kevin Lankinen, Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, and UC Saros. Any names there interest you in terms of the hockey card market? Any speculation or speculative ads you'll be making ahead of the tournament with any of those players?
I mean, I think the two people that stand out right away for me, or even three really, UC Saros being number one. I think that he should be the starter for this tournament. He should be the standout starter too. One of the best of the four goalies that are going to be starting in this tournament. I think he could win them a hockey game. And I feel like when you do look from a hobby perspective, who as a goalie can pop, win a team a hockey game, and really take them to the championship? I think that Saros could be one of the better goaltenders in this 4 or 5 day tournament. Quick turnaround too. He's one of those guys that could catch heat. I think his market as well, very cheap. Young Guns Raws only going for around $7 to $15, maxing out at 2015-16 Young Gun. Always felt cheap to me, and I know there was some rumblings of him getting traded in the offseason, so I speculated a little bit, but I feel like his market still needs to pop, and maybe this tournament could be that. The second person I was looking at was Sebastian Aho. I think Aho, obviously one of the top superstars in the league, just slept on big time, almost like a Barkov in a way too, where we just sleep on him from a hobby perspective and just the respect for his skill too. I think Aho could probably lead this team in points, goals, everything. He should be the standout player offensively, I believe. And then the third guy, that a little bit of a sleeper, Anton Lundell, could be the third, fourth line center for this team. And I think he could go toe-to-toe with almost any center in this league. Watching him play, the puck just gravitates to him. And I believe I was texting you the other night where I floated out a note just to say, man, Anton Lundell is so underrated.
Good player.
Just watching him play, like the puck gravitates to him. He finds the open man, and he's just one of the more offensively skilled-minded players in the league. So for me, I think Lundell's market could take a pretty substantial jump if he does pan out to play the way that I think he will in this tournament.
Well, it puts him on the main stage, and I know he's had opportunities in the playoffs to be seen by everybody, obviously, and see his card market improve, and it did increase last year throughout the Stanley Cup final run, but there's just a lot of mouths to feed when it comes to Florida, and, if he can go out and have himself a quality tournament and maybe be a breakout player in this tournament, for sure, that hype is going to bring some hobby love. Mikko Rantanen, obviously, I think is probably the top dog that they got there in Finland. So he's going to be someone who's certainly going to be a name to keep an eye on. But for me, it's still Patrick Laine. He's just always going to be a needle mover. Like he just always is. And returned to the lineup last night for Montreal, scored a goal, and everyone's buzzing in Montreal. Thinks, okay, we got Laine back in the fold. Maybe he's back to being his goal scoring self, 1-for-1. So he's someone who is always going to be hobby relevant for me. So I think Patrick Laine is a very interesting player from that perspective. All right, let's move it along here, and we'll get to Team Sweden and take a look at the Swedish players. There we go. So we're taking a look at Team Sweden here. Got Victor Arvidsson, Jesper Bratt, Leo Carlsson of the Anaheim Ducks makes the team. Joel Eriksson Ek, Philip Forsberg, Bill Carlson, Adrian Kempe, Elias Lindholm, William Nylander of the Toronto Maple Leafs, Gus Nyquist, Elias Pettersson, Lucas Raymond and Mika Zibanejad making it from the forward groups. And then defensively, they've got Rasmus Anderson, Jonas Brodin, Rasmus Dahlin, Ekholm, Forsling, Carlson, and Victor Hedman. Whew, what a defensive group they got out there in Sweden.
Crazy.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Sorry, I thought you had a note there. I mean, even for I was going to say actually, and you kind of stole it from me. It is one of the best looking defensive groups in this tournament, and even just from an offensive and defensive standpoint, when you have players like Gustav Forsling, Jonas Brodin, Rasmus Anderson, not as sexy playing wise as players like Hedman, Carlson, and Dahlin, but just what they can bring in the neutral zone and the defensive zone, I feel like that's something that I overlooked personally when I did my mock lineups just a month, 2 months ago, and I was kind of projecting what this team would look like, because we'll get into Team Canada as well. And I feel like in this tournament in general, when you're building that team, the first thing that comes to your mind is, well, who's the most skilled? Who's going to score the most points? Who's going to be the most flashiest? You don't really look to see, well, you know what? We do need a Jonas Brodin. We do need a player like Matthias Ekholm, not someone that could take the puck up like a Cale Makar, but someone that could do it both ways on the ice. And personally, I think that this Sweden group does have one of the best defensive groups in the tournament.
Yeah, and goaltending wise, three pretty good goalies. Philip Gustafsson, who arguably is right up there with Connor Hellebuck when it comes to Vezina status. I don't know if enough people are paying attention, but Gustafsson, number one save percentage in the league, number one goals against in the league. I mean, he's right up there with Hellebuck. So you got Philip Gustafsson, Jacob Markstrom, and then Linus Ullmark of the Ottawa Senators. Bit of a legacy play. You were a little surprised to see Ullmark get named.
Yeah, I mean, just because Allmark got named, I don't think he's going to start in the tournament. I do say that it is pretty evident that he's going to be the third goaltender. I mean, when you're behind a player like Markstrom and Gustafsson,
Hasn't he been the best goalie out of that trio in the last 5 years?
I
Like,
mean, if you're going to look at it from a wider standpoint, he did win the Vezina. That is right. 2 years ago, playing for Boston, he was the standout goalie in the league. He was the shutdown goalie. But for right now, if we're going to ride the hot streak, I think that Gustafsson's the go-to guy. Markstrom, not even very much a step behind him. I think both really good options. But when you're in a tournament that's just as short as the Four Nation Face-Off is going to be, I feel like you just got to turn to one guy, and I feel like that one guy is going to be Gustafsson. And if he wants to take a step back against one team, maybe they play Finland and they want to look back and say, okay, let's rest him up to play against Canada. Let's rest him up to play against US. I feel like Markstrom's going to get in. But as of right now, I don't think Allmark should even be on this team. I don't have a replacement. I mean, it's a little bit of a hot take. I don't
it's a
think
very
that,
hot take.
I
You're
don't
gonna
think
take
anyone,
a 13 game sample size and say what he's done the last 5 years means nothing. And
I mean,
keep in mind too, here's the thing. He's on a new team, right? New systems, new everything. Has to learn how to play off his defensemen. But another thing is the Ottawa defense, not as good as what that Boston defense has been the
yeah.
last couple of years. We just noted how great that blue line is for Sweden. So when you got a good team in front of you, Allmark has proven that he can stop pucks. So I think that probably played into that decision as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of, it's a tough discussion to have too if you are picking the team, because there's so many different aspects you need to look at. Even with the Canada team, you're going to see one of those lines, the Tampa Bay line there. I don't know what I don't know what the decision was behind that. I think there was one guy that we'll get into. He's been playing great, but a 13, 20 game sample size, sort of like you mentioned, of this season, when you look at the start of this season, I believe that is why some players were picked. And for me personally, if you're going to analyze if a player should or should not be on the team, I got to look at Allmark and say, you know what, maybe sit this one out, because it's been a really bad start to the year. And when you look at some other players, you can also look on the flip side and be like, well, they played really good at the start of the year, and that's why they're on the team. So for my argument, I mean, you are correct. He did win the Vezina.
But who would you replace him with? Like, you have to have three goalies. Who else
I
are you going
mean,
to bring?
it could be a hot take. We talked about him. Samuel Urson, I was looking up the
No,
list. Could
get
be
out
a
of
guy. Could be a guy where you
here. No.
slot him in at that third goaltender, get him ready to go if we do need him. And that could be the future. Could be the future of this Swedish goaltending. It's a little bit of a hot take, but I don't see Allmark starting any games this year. So when you talk about a third goaltender that isn't going to start any games this year, that's where I come from. And I say, well, instead of getting Allmark there, just sitting in sweats, eating hot dogs all tournament, let's get Samuel Urson in there, get the gears flowing for the next 5 years for maybe one day when he suits up. So that's kind of my take on
You're wilding. Absolutely
that.
wilding.
Hey, that's
All
why we're
right.
here. That's why we're
That's
here.
that's why we're here. All right. Let's take a look at Team USA and the projected roster for Team USA. So this is yeah, we'll just take us off for 1 second here. So Austin Matthews, Jack Eichel, JT Miller, which is interesting. We'll talk about that in a second. Matthew Kachuk, Brady Kachuk, Kyle Connor, Matt Boldy, Jake Gensel, Jack Hughes, Dylan Larkin, Vinny Trocheck, Chris Kreider, and Brock Nelson. On defense, they've got Quinn Hughes, Charlie McAvoy, Adam Fox, Zach Werenski, Jacob Slavin, Brock Faber, and Noah Hannafin. And in net, three studs, Connor Hellebuck, Jake Ottinger. And you probably believe that Jeremy Swayman should not be in goal for Team USA, but he was selected for Team USA. But a couple of interesting names on this roster, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I mean, even just starting from the net and out, I thought Swayman wasn't going to make this team coming from that side. Where if you're looking of a 20 game sample size to start this season, Swayman's just been brutal. And like for me, I'm a big Swayman guy. I was a total advocate for pay him in September, pay the man, and that's exactly what they did. And he hasn't been playing up to par with that contract at all. 0.888 save percentage as of right now. He's just been brutal. I don't think that he's going to start a game for the US. And I know it could be tough to jump over players like Jake Ottinger or Hellebuck. But if you were looking at how good he was against the Leafs last year in the playoffs, Jeremy Swayman was one of the best goaltenders in the entire league. And as of right
Yeah.
now, he's not playing with it. Sorry. I don't think he's going to make a push for that starting role. As of right now, starting in net, I think it's Connor Hellebuck and maybe Jake Ottinger plays against. Maybe if you want to start him against Sweden, I don't see him playing those games, that game against Canada or any playoff games because
Yeah,
you need to
it's
ride with those
Hellebuck's net.
goaltenders. Yeah, for
It's
sure.
Hellebuck. I mean, there's not a lot of true number ones. Like Canada doesn't have anyone where it's like it's that guy's net. Obviously, Finland you can look at Saros, but it's a toss up in Sweden as well. This isn't a toss up. I mean, this is Connor Hellebuck's net, and he's going to play every meaningful game. I mean, they'll probably just toss Ottinger a game here just to get him in, possibly Swayman. I don't know, but for sure, Hellebuck's going to play the bulk of the games and the important ones. Interestingly, JT Miller, though, this is a player who is currently on leave of absence for personal reasons. The team or the player has not noted why he is gone, but he hasn't been with the team for a couple of weeks now, but was named to the roster. So that's kind of interesting that they elected to go with him, assuming that he's going to still be playing hockey or he'll be back by February. It's a bit of a roll of the dice, but I thought that was kind of interesting. But when you get lower on this list is kind of where things you scratch your head a little bit. Like Brock Nelson and Vinny Trocheck is not having the season that he had before the last couple of years. But you think about guys who are left off. I mean, Cole Caulfield screams out to me, and he's like a big hobby guy, right? Montreal Canadiens goal scorer. He's got what 14, 15 goals
15
so
goals.
far, up to 16 goals. Not on Team USA. That was a big shocker to me.
Yeah, and I think from a hobby's perspective, like you said too, that's where his market could have had that opportunity to really jump up and find because he is a goal scorer. When you are representing your national team and you have the talent to be able to go out there, perform successfully, I think that not having Cole Caulfield in this lineup was a big miss. Even like you mentioned too with JT Miller, I didn't expect JT Miller to get put on this team. I would assume that there was some sort of conversation that was held to say, hey, look, if everything's going all right, will you be ready to go? This is the discussion. He's a great player, very worth rostering him when you are picking the team. There's no discussion about that. Even something I noticed too, going back, Joe Eriksson Ek, who's now week to week, was selected for the team depending on how big the severity of his injury is. I know that he was dealing with something, I believe it was a lower body injury 2 weeks ago. So if that re-aggravates, how different could these teams look in 2 months from now? The biggest thing for me that I think someone that was left off that could really bring a massive spark to this team, Tage Thompson. I thought he was a big miss not bringing him on, especially when you're going to bring on a player like Brock Nelson. Nelson's a great player, but when you look at TNT, he's the guy. I think just having him ready on the power play could be a massive, massive opportunity for Team USA. And I think that was a big miss too. And just to kind of touch back on the season that he had last year. It was a down year, but he's been great this year, and I think he's a great player. He should have made this team. That's kind of where I stand on that.
I agree. That to me was a massive snub. Both, Caulfield and Tage Thompson. You could possibly throw Clayton Keller into that role as well. But there's a lot of really good players on Team USA, obviously, and they had to make the decision. It feels like they just went with a veteran presence, which is not
Yeah.
really what Canada went for, or what a lot of fans wanted to see. But that does seem to be the case in what ended up happening with Team USA. Team Canada, interestingly, they kind of had a bit of a theme as well, but their theme was more so role players as opposed to just grabbing guys, the best players. They got a group that seems like they could have what you would call it, maybe the best possible team, I guess is what we'll call it. Yeah, they believe that this is the team that would possibly win this tournament. So we're taking a look at it now. Here's Team Canada's roster. You've got McDavid, Crosby, Point, Cirelli down the middle, Reinhart, Mitch Marner, Brad Marchand, Nathan McKinnon, Brandon Hagel, Mark Stone, Sam Bennett, and Travis Konechny on the wing. Seth Jarvis makes the team as a 13th forward. And then on defense, Devon Tays and Kel McCarr, Shea Theodore and Alex Petrangelo, Josh Morrissey. And then two kind of surprises for me, Colton Parayko and Travis Sanheim both making the roster for Team Canada. And goaltenders that went with Jordan Binnington, Aiden Hill, and Samuel Montembeault, which surprised a lot of people. But his card market, I think, probably will take a little bit of an uptick after this selection.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to take a good look at this Team Canada roster too because there's so many players. I could say that the first two offensive lines, I totally agree with. That forward group is just unreal. Looks all good to me. That third line, sorry, Brandon Hagel, he's been unreal this year, point per game and more, I
Yeah.
believe. Braden Point, who was selected earlier, he was a lock, one of the best centers in the league, I think. Watching him play, maybe won't perform as well without Kucherov. We know how valuable he is on that line when they play together. Mark Stone was a really, really big surprise for me. I think if he's even
Really?
going to be healthy, I thought he was a big surprise. I thought you could have added some other players that would have brought more spark to this team. Mark Stone, one of the most talented players in the past couple years, but with his health, I don't think it's been amazing at all.
Worst case scenario, if the guy's hurt, he doesn't come back. I guess they just replace him. But I mean, you're hoping for good health, right? And Mark Stone, when healthy, is an elite two-way winger. I'm not surprised at all. That looks like a great checking line. Brendan Hagel, Braden Point, and Mark Stone. My projection had that as a line. I actually had the top line projected pretty much the exact same way that it's here. To me, it's like the Sam Bennett and Anthony Cirelli instead of Jarvis were the three biggest surprises up front. And then obviously Sanheim and Parayko on the back end. But it just looks like they want for role players. And that's what they want to do. Guys who can fill roles well, like Sam Bennett and Cirelli. They can kill penalties and they can defend their asses off. And that's exactly what they're going to be there to do. Sam Mark Stone, he can kill penalties. So that allows, your McDavids and Reinhardt and Marchand, Crosby, McKinnon to just go full bore on the power play and have 5-on-5 and not have to worry about, defending and have a lot of those offensive zone faceoffs with those guys because you have a lot of faith and trust in the bottom half of your roster. I think that's kind of what they were trying to do, build a winner as opposed to building an all-star team, which is, interesting decision to go that route. We'll see if it pays off. I thought defensively they left out a couple of, again, guys who I think are probably better players, but it sounds like they wanted someone who's got more grit, and that's why they picked up a Parayko as Sanheim. But you can't tell me that Dougie Hamilton or Evan Bouchard is a worse player. You're on mute.
You got it? I sent you
There
a
we
text.
go.
I think yours was breaking up just a little bit, but should all be good back now. I think right now for Sam Bennett and Anthony Cirelli to be picked on the team, two very not flashy players that you wouldn't exactly turn to right away. But when you look and talk about players that will go out there and can you hear that echo?
No, you're good.
Okay. Sorry, there's just like this weird echo. It's all good. Yeah, but when you look at Sam Bennett and Anthony Cirelli right now, I think that Anthony Cirelli is almost like a baby Sam Bennett in a way where he can kill penalties, slot in on that power play, and really be that grinder that can press that third, fourth line and almost play like a first liner when he is out there. I think they were pretty good picks considering that they've been playing well this season. And even for the defensive aspect of it, Travis Sanheim and Parayko, two picks that I didn't really have on my projected roster, but two very talented players. Parayko, I believe, right now leading the league in block shots. That's exactly what you need. Someone to kill the power. Sorry, someone to be on that penalty kill with that defensive ability. And that's exactly what he's going to bring. That's why he was selected. And I think that's why he was picked over a player like Dougie Hamilton, Ekblad, Bouchard, Noah Dobson. Four very talented players and four players who we probably all had projected to make this team. But Colton Parayko gets a shout. So
I mean, we'll see if it turns out to be the correct decision. But it's clearly something that they're looking to, looking to build out. They have a plan, a philosophy. I mean, Parayko's also a Doug Armstrong guy too, right? So he picked his defenseman. Is the mic still good? I
I
see you
should be
can't.
all good. I should be all good. I'm trying to
Okay,
fiddle around with it a little bit, but we
I think
should
we're
be
good.
back in business.
We're powering through. We're powering through. We got this. We got this, people. But yeah, it's going to be a fun tournament. I think all eyes are going to be on, the tournament, obviously, in the hockey world. And I'm curious though, as we now move this into a hockey card conversation, do you expect for the Four Nations tournament to have an impact on the market? And if so, like, what's the play? Have you thought of a potential strategy? And if not, maybe we could talk through the strategies that do exist here.
I mean, I do think that you want to look at players that can heat up fast, players that are going to lead the team in points. And I want to kind of go out, and I was talking to one of my good buddies, George. We were having a really good conversation about this tournament. And I think that the biggest player that's going to come out of this tournament with the massive hobby upcharge and maybe hobby increase is going to be William Nylander. I think he's going to take that Sweden team to
Ooh.
new heights. And when you look at the Team USA team, it's very flashy. I'm going to watch every single second of every single game of everything in this tournament. And I feel like even though you have players like Kyle Connor, Matt Boldy, Austin Matthews, there's a lot of great players on that Team USA team, but I don't think that anyone's going to be able to drop the most points in that tournament because there's so many mouths to feed on that Team USA team, on that Team Canada team. But when you look at William Nylander and you look at Sweden and you look at where the puck is going to run through, I think the entire play, that entire power play, everything is going to run through William Nylander. I think he's going to have a massive tournament. I think he's really going to break out. And I think this is going to be finally where William Nylander, his young guns really reach over $100 for a raw and solidify in that price. Because I still think he's one of the best players in the league. He's very talented. I think he's going to show everyone that in this Four Nations face-off.
He keeps getting better and better. So William Nylander is the guy who you are going to be speculating on, someone who you think could be a good pickup, not just for the tournament, but also just in general because of the season he's having, leading the Leafs in goals
Still cheap.
and
Still
the
cheap.
team. And yeah, like you could still get his young guns raw for what, 60, 70 bucks. Like it's still pretty cheap.
40 bucks, 50
And,
bucks.
yeah, and like you could see it definitely rise and increase and get to the $100 mark Canadian. I wouldn't be surprised by that. I do like that option. I think a lot of the big boys though will receive a bump. You know what I mean? Like we talk
Mm.
about sometimes who are the lower end value guys that you can get. And a tournament like this, I think it's the big guys who are going to generate the interest and the hype, like the McDavids and the Matthews and the McKinnons. Like I think those, and Nylander does fit into that same conversation, obviously, but I think that's who we're going to see kind of increase. So I don't know if there's necessarily, like sure, Anthony Cirelli made the team, okay, but I don't know how much of an impact he's going to have. I don't know if we'll see, I guess there's a possibility for him to become like an unsung hero and have a great tournament, but I feel like this is going to be the big boy tournament, and we're going to see those guys, the McDavids of the world, really put up numbers, and that's the hype that's going to drive this hobby. And you're going to see a lot of people wanting to go pick up their cards, and especially the ones who also have a chance to go deep into a playoffs, like the Leafs,
Yep.
the Edmonton Oilers, the pick Crosby. Oh, probably not Crosby, but McKinnon potentially, right? Jack Eichel
Reinhardt,
for the
I think
States.
Reinhardt a big player right now. Someone
There
who's
you
very
go.
$20 for a young gun, sorry, for a guy that's probably going to win the Rocket Richard, and their team's going to be in contention for the Stanley Cup again.
Probably gonna win the Rocket Richard.
Hey,
He's
he's close.
still on that
He's
train.
close. I'm still on the train because he's still on that train. I think he's a goal or two behind Draisaitl.
What's his shooting percentage at?
It's
Uh,
27.7.
and it's gonna stay at 27%, you think?
I think that it's gonna be able
It's
to
at
stay.
26.5%. His
That's
career
pretty
is
close.
16%. And that's because he had 24% shooting last year.
Hey, he's
I don't
doing it.
know.
Hey, this isn't I'm a big guy that loves to speculate on players say, "Yeah, I don't know if they could do that again," but as of right now, it's right in the middle of the season. He's doing it. He's playing amazing. He's a lock every single night to score. They have him down at -105, I think, every single night when I go look at Florida games. He's been unreal. He's been shooting lights out. I don't know if he's going to be able to drop 50 plus like he did last year, but as of right now, he's on pace to do that and more. So I'm all in on any all-star player like you mentioned. I feel like that's a great take for me. I think McDavid's going to have a massive tournament. I think this
Yeah,
means way too much for him in a very good way too. He should lead that team and hopefully pass the torch. Get the torch passed from to him from
from
Sidney Crosby.
Crosby. Yeah, who gets the C, Crosby or McDavid?
I think Crosby. Even McDavid said in that interview, I believe, where he said if there's any team that he's playing on, Crosby is the captain. So it would be a pretty cool moment to see Crosby say, you know what, this is your team, this is your country, this is your, this is your seat to wear going forward. It would be pretty cool because I feel like Crosby won't be making that 2026 Olympic team, so the time is now. But really looking forward to this tournament. I think there's a lot of good conversations to be had too.
Should be a lot of fun. So, it might be a good time to speculate on some of the top end players. Like Mitch Marner's another guy that I'd be interested in, who could have himself a heck of a tournament. He's been playing excellent for the Maple Leafs, especially in the last month. In the absence of Austin Matthews, his market is really starting to heat up too. People all summer long were ready to forget about Mitch and put him, trying to sell him off, trying to trade him. And now it seems like, the market's coming around on him again. And it happens every single year. We'll see. But that's kind of what we're thinking for the Four Nations tournament. I think there will be some sort of hobby impact. Hype drives the hobby, and there's going to be a lot of eyeballs on this tournament and a lot of eyeballs on the Stars there in the first best on best, or the closest that we will get to best on best, or we've had to best on best in the last decade. So excited for it. So that's going to be mid-February for that tournament. I'm sure it's not the last time that we'll be talking about it between now and the start date in about 2 months or so.
Yep.
All right, Anthony, back into the NHL. I want to take a look at the NHL's 3 stars of the month and kind of just see, like, again, our premise is always that hype drives the hobby. And, when you are absolutely dominating the NHL, how much could it help your hockey card and hobby pricing? Well, let's take a look at the NHL 3 stars of the month of November and see how they've performed over the course of the first couple of months of the season. And the first star, I'm sure a lot of people would be surprised if you're not quite following along or you haven't looked at an updated stats chart to see who's leading the NHL, but it's Martin Nakash of the Carolina Hurricanes. Had 22 points in the month of November, 7 goals, 15 assists. No one in the NHL had more offense than Nakash did this past month. He gets first star. His PSA 10 pop count, just 78, Anthony. Only 78 PSA 10s exist with just a 37% gem rate. How much you want to bet that after the first 2 months of the season, that number is going to triple in the next 6 weeks? Everyone's going to go dig into their boxes or into their binders or wherever they keep their cards, and they're going to be sending in Marty Nakashes to PSA once they see the price points that these are getting to now compared to where they were in the summer.
Yeah, for sure too. Like when you look at people that have everything nice and organized, there's going to be collectors that go into their binders, go into their boxes and find 20 plus Natchez Young Guns because he wasn't one of those guys that people are always picking out of the bins, looking to grab the future watches. Even at Expo 2, 3 weeks ago, when we were looking at Natchez as one of the best players in the league, almost leading points just head to head with Kaprizov there that weekend, his Future Watch Raw was only going for, I believe, 60 or $70 when I picked it up, which was unreal. I almost had to do a double take too last weekend when I saw a Raw with an $140 sticker on it. But when I went to go ask, the guy said, I kind of forgot about that. I'm just going to put it back in my box. I'm not selling
Oh,
that Future Watch Raw for 140. I'm going to hold that on for now. I think there's going to be a lot of people sending it to PSA though because of how talented he's been, and it's not just a trend or a little spark that's happened over a weekend. It's been 2 months of straight consistency. Goal in
yeah.
an apple last night. The power play has been unreal, and Carolina has been really good too.
And he's always been a player who's had immense skill, just kind of needed opportunity. And, Carolina had some guys leave this past offseason, which allowed him to move up the lineup a little bit. Teravainen left, and now he can saddle up next to Aho. And, those two can be a nice little tandem in Carolina, and they continue to fill the net. Yeah, so PSA 10 pop counts just 78. The last sale of that card still pretty cheap in my mind considering the year that he's having. 125 bucks, but it's up from the price of I think it was $85 it was in the summer. Or at the start of the season, there was a sale for 85 bucks. So, we're seeing a $40 increase in the course of the last 2 months based on what he's been able to do. So, that's just, again, proves how hype drives the hobby, and performance on the ice helps with the performance in the card market. His future watch auto patch, you had it as the
Yeah.
watch of the week last week when we did our Slab Sharks cards of the week. You saw that they had a flop of Martin Nakash. That sold for $815 last week. $815 for Future Watch Auto Patch back on May 9th. So that was in the middle of the playoffs, in which they were in the playoffs. Keep in mind, the Carolina Hurricanes, that sold for $125.
Wow.
Fast forward to last Thursday, and it sells for 815. Talk about a glow up, Anthony.
That's just unreal. Even like something like that, you hear stories now where people say, it's just a hobby. You just collect. There's no real opportunity in the market. That right there even just tells me that's a massive jump. Obviously, Natchez is one of the best players right now, so it's a little bit of an isolated scenario. But when
But
you're
but if
able,
you're a smart flipper, now's when you make the move. Now's when
Uh,
you sell.
I don't know. I mean, even if you're on that side of it, I'm holding H's right now. If I have him, depending on what you're into him, I think it could be a big year for him too. Because even though the numbers look great, watching Carolina and watching him play, he looks good too. Like I was having a conversation with my buddy Murray. We were watching the Washington Capitals game, and we said, you know what, McMichael's market has really jumped up. He's putting up the numbers, but he doesn't look flashy out there. The eye test doesn't look amazing personally for me on McMichael. He is putting up great numbers. The eye test for me for Martin Necas was unreal. Just looking
Yep.
absolutely like a rocket out there. He was looking good. That power play has been really good on a line with Aho too. Necas is a guy that I still think there's still room for him to grow. I still think there's room for his market to grow.
Could definitely still get up there, that's for sure. But eh, I think the PSA 10, the Young Guns, I think still has a lot of growth. But if someone offered me $800 for his flop, a raw flop, I'd probably sell that. I would say
See
sayonara.
ya. That'd be a
Yeah,
see ya.
I'd say sayonara to that one. Mikko Rantanen was the second star of the week. He had 11 goals, 8 assists, and 19 points, sorry, of the month of November. PSA 10 pop count of 1,184. The last sale being $142, but was as high as 167 last week, which is up 31% since the beginning of the season. I don't know why Mikko Rantanen is one of the most slept on and undervalued players in the NHL, but for a guy who consistently flirts with 100 points, he's a winner, Stanley Cup winner. Always up at the top of the leaderboard. Even right now, he's top 5 in points. I'm pretty sure, pretty close to it. Still, you can get his young guns at a PSA 10 for 150, 160 bucks. It doesn't
No.
make any sense. You can get his raws for 40 bucks. It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me.
No, and I think Ranson, and he's up for a payday too. So to say that we didn't anticipate a season like this coming into a contract year, I think Rantanen is one of the best players in the NHL. He's one of the best right wingers in fantasy. I always love to relay it back to fantasy too. And he is such a threat offensively. I was watching the Edmonton Colorado game, and they didn't even utilize him too much on that power play on the right side. It was mainly just the left side. McKinnon setting up with Nichushkin in front and Makar as the quarterback. And all Ranson kind of did was kind of sit around, wait around for that pass to come in, and then boom, out of nowhere, lights out. He was awesome. I think he's a very skillful player. And when he's on the ice, I think there's no stopping him, especially on his line too. There's a lot of room too for his market to grow. 150 is way too cheap for Rantanen.
Lots of room, lots of room. In the summer, I couldn't believe that you could still pick up Ranton and Ross for 25, 30
20
bucks. I
bucks.
mean,
Yeah.
it's criminally low. And again, it is one of those things where it's like, well, what's it gonna take for it to really explode? I guess because he's won a cup. He's been a top scorer. He's scored 50 goals. It's like, what is it going to take? Maybe the market just is what it is. He's going to be a perpetually underappreciated player, but it's just like, he should be. And he's in a good market too in Colorado, a team that should win.
I mean,
It's one of those things though, where I think you have to, if you're looking to flip, it's a guy you're purchasing now to move during the playoff run. And that's what you got to hope and pray for and just hit that high point, right? It's all about peaks and valleys. If you can sell at the high point, buy at the low points, you're going to do well in this hobby. And I feel like Ranton is one of those guys. He doesn't really have a high floor, but he's got a high ceiling. Like he's not going to hover around the same thing. He's going to go up and down all season long. But you got to make sure that you kind of hit it at the high points if you're investing in a Mikko Rantanen. And that's my opinion of his market, at least.
no, I totally agree.
Connor Hellebuck is the third star, first goaltender to join the party. He was 8-2 last month with a 931 save percentage, a 210 goals against, and a pair of shutouts. His PSA 10 pop count just 520. His last sale was for $167, which is up 85% from the beginning of the season. On October 8th, Anthony, you could have bought this card for $90 Canadian, a PSA 10 Connor Hellebuck, the best goalie in hockey right now on the planet. And it's now up 85% since then. And there's been a sale as high as $212 that we saw a couple of weeks ago. So Connor Hellebuck, his market is starting to get some appreciation because he's another one that's been slept on for many years.
And it feels cheap too. When you look at picking up his young guns for what, 10, 15 bucks, you could probably still find them for $20. It doesn't make sense to me why Connor Hellebuck's been one of the best goalies in the league. And you look at Vasilevsky prices where Vasi goes for $250 for a raw young gun. Meanwhile, you have players like Shesterkin going for $100 to $150 in a raw. And then you could pick up Hellebuck for 10, 15 bucks. It just doesn't make any sense. He's been the heart and soul of that Winnipeg Jets team when they signed Hellebuck and Mark Scheifele, who also started off the year really well, to identical deals last year. I thought it was the best thing that the Jets have ever done. He should win the Vezina this year. He's been the heart and soul of my fantasy team, so I've been watching all Winnipeg games, doing the videos for the Jets too, which has been a lot of fun as well. And I think Hellebuck, his hobby love is just at a bare minimum low. I'll never understand as to why people don't want to collect this guy because he's lights out.
Yeah, it's an issue with all players in Winnipeg because Kyle Connor, doesn't matter how many goals he scores, never seems to get the love that he should get. Definitely, a very underappreciated market, that's for sure. But yeah, so was the 3 stars of the month. I think we're gonna probably do this at the beginning of each month and go through and see, which NHLers had the hot month and how did they impact their card market, because that's ultimately what we like to do, just kind of educate people and further prove that hype drives the hobby and it performs like a stock market, But I also believe that you should, you got to get out at the right time. And maybe some of these guys, in my opinion, they cash would be a right time to cash. I would still probably hold on Rantanen, Hellebuck. Actually, I'm probably buying Hellebuck. Like if we do a buy sell hold, I'm probably selling Natchez, buying Rantanen, and I'm probably going to be holding Hellebuck. That's probably how I would do it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's tough with Natchez right now. I'd have to agree because his prices have really skyrocketed. Unless he
Yeah.
can keep up this pace, which I think he will, I'll probably second that.
All right. And that'll bring a close to the 3 stars of the month. Okay, really quickly, let's get to some hobby news because there's some new product releases upcoming in the month of December. And we finally have our first few, good products for the 24-25 class. Artifacts is coming out on December 11th. And then Parkhurst Champions will be coming out on December 18th. That's going to be for 23-24. So the Connor Bedard class of Parkhurst champions. And then 24-25 Black Diamond coming out January 3rd. So we've got two pretty good products coming out for the 24-25 class, which is Artifacts and Black Diamond. And it's pretty much going to be the first time that we'll get a chance to collect a Celebrini and a Michkov and guys like that. And dude, what these two have been doing the last couple of weeks, I think the 24-25 class is going to be just fine. There was a lot of discussion over the summer and last year with how hot the Connor Bedard market was and the chase for Bedard. 24-25 products were going to feel like chump change, like garbage. I don't think that's going to be the case, man. I think those two players, Celebrini and Michkov, you add in Elaine Hudson, who's also going to be part of this rookie class, obviously, and a couple other players, Stankoven. I think that there's a chance that 24-25 could actually be a solid season for hockey cards.
It kind of reminds me almost of I believe it's the 1920 set too, where you look at
Yes.
players like Lafreniere, Stutzel, Kirill Kaprizov,
2021. That
or
was 2021.
2020. I mean, even 1920 as well, very
Yeah.
talented. But
Suzuki,
2021,
McCarr, Hughes, both Hughes brothers. Yeah,
yeah,
those
like
are
you
really good
have
ones too.
players from all the peripherals that are playing well and very talented also. I think personally that Celebrini is really going to stand out when his cards come out. At first, we had that conversation. Could Michkov have that hype over Connor Bedard? I know we were talking about that last year, but right now, or sorry, last week, I don't even know if Michkov is going to have that hype over Celebrini because Celebrini has played so well. That Sharks team has played really well too. I think they
To have
blew out, was it Utah 2 nights in a row? They
Seattle.
right, yeah,
Seattle.
Seattle. They
Yeah.
killed Seattle on that home and home, I believe. So San Jose's been awesome. I love watching Celebrini too. And ever since he has come into the league, he's been a big spark for that team. They're not going to make the playoffs. They're not going to make any pushes, anything like that. But I do think that Celebrity's market's going to be very strong.
I agree, man. And this kid's a player, and anyone I talk to says so. I got a buddy who's friends with, I guess I won't say who it is, but he's friends with someone on the Sharks. And I was talking to him about Celebrini. He was visiting his buddy down in San Jose, and he couldn't believe how good this kid was at the age of 18. He's like, the kid is just absolutely a genius when it comes to his hockey IQ. So high, so big and strong. Already 6 foot, 190 at 18. And he can play strong too. Good skater, good passer. He can rip the puck. He's a good player, man. I think Macklin Celebrini is showing that he definitely belongs in the NHL. Again, he wasn't touted as a Connor Bedard level player, but maybe in the Jack Hughes ilk of a player potentially is what he could turn into. Although Bedard has not turned into the Bedard level player either, if we're being completely honest with ourselves. Macklin Celebrini is having a better year than Connor Bedard. So is Matvei Michkov, if you think about it. But I'm looking at 5-game point streak for Macklin Celebrini. The team's won
Wow.
4 of the last 5 games. Should have been 5 of the last 5. They lost to Ottawa. Meanwhile, they outshot them like 15-1 the third period, and somehow that one goal or that one shot made its way into the back of the net and stood as the game winner. But yeah, he's got what's he got? 4 goals and 4 assists, 8 points his last 5 games on this point streak. So yeah, the kid's playing some really good hockey right now, and I think that He'll be a big chase and a big headline in the 24-25 class. And like I said, Matvey Michkov is in there as well. So Artifacts coming out next week. That'll be an opportunity to make that chase. And then Black Diamond will be another opportunity. That'll be the first time, I guess, we'll probably see autographs. There'll be stickers. There are always stickers in Black Diamond nowadays. I absolutely hate it. And it's dumb for a $500, $400 box of cards to be sticker autos. But say la vie. I'll save my piece for another day. But yeah, the 24-25 class and the 24-25 hobby release calendar is coming up pretty quickly. And I think there's going to be some big chases, and it'll be exciting to see what kind of happens with their markets once they start to come out pretty regularly. All right. Just a reminder that the Hockey Card Haven podcast is now powered by Slab Sharks, the #1 sports consignment company in Canada. They've got thousands of listings each and every week up on eBay. I bought a bunch of cards last week. Anthony's been buying cards. He's been submitting cards, making some money on the side. And what we're doing now each and every week is taking a look at the auction and seeing what our favorite cards are this week. And Anthony, we'll start with why don't we start with one of your cards? Which one do you want to start with? The Team Canada one that you had
Yep.
there?
Yep.
Okay, we'll start with that. Explain what the card is while I pull it up for you.
Yeah, so actually when I was going through the list, I was actually hanging out with my girlfriend and we were taking a look, and then she was like, "Oh, what are you doing?" I said, "Oh, here, come help me pick out some cards." And I was kind of torn because I did some Future Watch cards last week with the Natchez, the Cup the week before, and we were flipping and she said, "Oh, what's that one right there? Connor McDavid, Team Canada." And I said, "Oh, that one's pretty nice too. I mean, I believe it's his rookie, but people don't really love the national team stuff." And she actually pointed out, she said, "Well, it's perfect for the conversation." I was showing her the list of what we're going to be talking about today. And she said, "You have to
True.
pick this card." And I think too, for $115, it's very cheap right now. I don't love that the auto's slightly off the sticker, but I feel like this is an awesome card and very fitting right now for the Team Canada selection day that is today. So shout out my girlfriend for helping me pick this one. And I think that I actually might take a stab at this card if it goes for anywhere under $200. I don't think it will, but as of right now, I definitely put it on my watch list, and I think it's very fitting to show as my card of the week.
I like it. I think you bring up a good point. Actually, I won't be surprised if we see in the future um, Four Nations Cup inspired product line, whether it's not a product line or potentially, like an SP game use, maybe, they have like the banner year and they have
Yeah,
banners and whatnot from, like, I think we'll see something from there, whether it's game use jerseys or
yeah,
something. They'll market it because it's an NHL licensed event,
for
right? It's
sure.
not double IHF. So I think we could possibly even maybe see some cards made, maybe even like the team packs where they can have like base cards of every team and then
Like, I have
select
actually
autos.
something like this here. They
Yeah,
have like the team
exactly,
packs of
exactly.
Vegas. They were giving out these for free. Actually, when I went to Ottawa, I don't know where it is. I think it's in my room, but I also have the team pack from Ottawa from Upper Deck. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I think they could definitely do something like that for the Four Nations and sell those. All right, the next card that you got here, Anthony, we're looking at a Kale McCarr, 1/1 All-Star Tag Auto out of SP Game Used.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely have my eye now on more short printing cards. I talked about that with you on the phone just last week. One of ones now, I'm all over them. If I see them at card shows for a reasonable price, I just want to pick them up because it really is where the beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and the price is in the eye of the beholder too with one of ones, because people will pay as much as the highest bidder wants to pay. And this is a great looking card with the logo of the Adidas. The only downside for me too, if I want to say, is first off the sticker auto. The auto looks really good, but sticker autos, I feel like we have that
Yeah.
same feel for it. We just don't like it. And also the Western Conference All-Star jersey. I don't love it that it's not Colorado, but I do love the purple theme of it. It's a great photo. Both photos look great, and it meshes well with the card as well. So this is a card that I'm going to have my eye on for what it sells for. I probably won't take a stab at it, But I do think that if you walk away from the auction with this Kale McCarr 1/1, you're going to be very happy because he's going to be a big piece of that Team Canada come February, and he's going to be a big piece of Colorado as they look to turn their season around, which they did last night. Shout out Gorgiev getting that dub down 4-0, won it 5-4. Definitely chirp my girlfriend for that. She's a big Sabres fan. So
Oh God, the Sabres, man, that's got to be a heartbreaker the way that they lost that hockey game, an absolute heartbreaker. But yeah, that'd be a really cool card to get for sure. All right, I'm gonna show. I've got a couple of cards that I saw that I really like here. The first one I'm looking at is a Sidney Crosby exquisite card, a 21-22 exquisite Crosby endorsements patch auto numbered to 10. And it's just a beautiful patch. Again, I love patch autos. It's Sidney freaking Crosby, obviously. And just look at the beautiful patch. It's a great on-card autograph. Sid's always had a really good autograph too. It's low numbered. It's exquisite. It just checks all the boxes. It's going to go for a stupid price. It's already up to 866. Wouldn't be shocked to see it tip over $1,000 for this one. It's just such a great card.
game use patch.
Game use patch, buddy.
Wow,
Game
love
use
it.
patch.
That's on card auto out of 10. Looks awesome. I love that card. Gotta go and grab that if you're a big Crosby fan listening right now.
100%. Like any Crosby collector would love to have this. Would love to have this card inside their collection. The next card that I'm going to show you guys is this is one that I thought was pretty cool. And I mean, we were talking about Connor Hellebuck earlier in the podcast, so it's also fitting to bring him up into the fold as he was named to Team USA's roster for the Four Nations Cup. He also has a really cool card available on the Slab Sharks auction right now. It's an 18-19 Upper Deck The Cup Hellebuck limited logos top patch auto numbered 50 of 50, but just look at that logo. It has the full word Jets on it with a little bit of the Canadian flag. I think that this is just absolutely gorgeous. Just one of the coolest patches that I've seen anyone, not just a Hellebuck collector or a Jets collector, specifically a Jets collector should have this in their in their trophy case, I would think. But man, this is just a beautiful card for any hockey card collector.
Yeah, I mean, even too for limited logos, very slept on. I always say I want to get into the cup more. You talk about what cards do you want to get if you want to collect a player. It's the Young Guns, it's the Future Watch, it's the PSA 10 Young Guns. And I really think the limited logos too, if you're going for non-rookie cards, it's the card to get. They got the on-card autos, the patches, the great photo, and it's numbered, and it's from the cup, sorry. Like you said, checks all the boxes, big slam dunk.
So there they are. Those are the few cards that we'll be watching, the cards that we thought were really sweet. And there's thousands of listings. You can check them all out over on the Slab Sharks eBay page. They'll all be coming due on Thursday. Their weekly auctions end Thursday. So make sure you go and star them all throughout the day. And then starting at, I think it's 7 o'clock, they start to kind of wind down. And then they're timed from there. You'll want to make sure that you're paying attention to see if you can snipe any beautiful cards from them. And if you're looking to consign, you can let us know as well. There's a link down below where you can help. We can help you consign some cards and sell some of your collection through Slab Sharks. You can DM us on Instagram, and we can help get you a little bit more information on that. But again, there's a link below to kind of help you there. All right, Anthony, any pickups for you this past weekend?
So I went to a card show this weekend. Nothing too crazy for me personally. I do have. Let me show you. Here we are.
You went. I was at a show Saturday, and then you went to a show on Sunday.
Yeah. So I did pick up. I mean, I don't really have too much to show. I did pick up one Byfield Young Guns PSA 10. There was an assortment of smaller cards. Nothing too crazy.
What's the market at now?
So
I
ended up picking it up for $50. I think that's a fair price. But I was having
like a 60. I think it's like comps at like 60 to 65.
Yeah.
Anyway, right?
Yeah. Like I think the margins are very tight right now on PSA 10s. We were having that conversation as well. And I just wanted to bring out a big point too across for if you are looking to pick up Young Guns PSA 10s. And it was a little bit of a gripe before we end off today because I know we got a jet. But if you're looking at Young Guns PSA 10s, the margins are very small right now. We were talking about a Jack Hughes Young Guns PSA 10. I was fronted with a situation.
Do we want to hold it? Because this feels like it could be a long, flushed out
Yeah.
conversation. I feel like this is something we could get into and have like a full 20-25 minute discussion on it like next week. Because I know where we're going with it because we literally talked about it on the phone for like 20 minutes. Like Anthony and I, whenever we come home from a show, we usually end up kind of chatting with each other. Hey, what'd you pick up? What'd you think? Any nice cards? Yada yada. And we were discussing kind of our thoughts on the current climate of the market, and we got into young guns and the profitability of them compared to maybe more scarce cards. And I think it's just a conversation that we can get into more fully maybe on next week's show.
Yeah,
I think that would make some sense.
Maybe a little bit of a pre-plan to be continued. So hopefully if you are engaged in this conversation right now, be prepared for next week because I will be locked in for it. I got a couple good points too. So
I would love to know if people feel the same. Let us know down below. Oh, Anthony went somewhere. I don't know where Anthony went to. Hopefully he can pop back. Based on that, I think his laptop might have just died. So I didn't get many pickups this week. I did make one pickup earlier in the week, and I was able to grab. Let me see if I can just do this for now until Anthony comes back. Whoops. Nope. All right, we're gonna do that till Anthony comes back. Hopefully he does. I picked up a Cole Caulfield. Was it a Cole Caulfield Retro Future Watch auto numbered to 99? And it was actually done through a trade by a viewer. So if you're listening, funny enough, actually, it was to Jagger and his father. Jagger's the one who won the bobblehead from us at the giveaway we did for the expo, the Vladdy bobblehead giveaway. And he actually showed up to a show, and they were looking for a Matthews PSA 9 Young Guns. I happened to have one. We worked out a deal that we were both happy with. He went home with the Young Guns, and I took home the Caulfield Future Watch Auto retro version numbered to 99. And I think we were both happy with the deal, but that was pretty much it. I did more selling than buying. There was another trade. I picked up a couple of like a Taylor Hall Future Watch Auto and a Dougie Hamilton, some kind of lower end Future Watches I picked up as well, but nothing too crazy this past weekend. But I think that's gonna do it because I think Anthony his computer might have died, so that's gonna probably do it for our show. Just a reminder, there's a couple shows happening this weekend in the GTA on Sunday. The Run the Hobby show in Concord, and then I'll be set up at the Steeltown Sport Card and Collectible show in Copetown this weekend. Starts at 9:30, runs till 3 p.m. So if you're in the Hamilton, Dundas area, or you're looking for a show to go to, hit up the Steeltown Sport Card Market at the Copetown Community Center in Dundas. Again, 9:30 start time. That'll do it for us here today on the podcast. I'd like to thank you all for listening and supporting the show. You can subscribe right here on YouTube. You can also listen and subscribe to us on Spotify, soon to be up on Apple